Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Autism, ADHD, and Me podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to talk more about time blindness, which is one of those things that's affected by executive functioning issues. So this is common for people with ADHD, common for people with autism as well. In case you don't know me already, and I haven't introduced myself recently, I am Corey, and I'm a life strategist for autistic women. I'm late diagnosed autistic ADHDer, and I am a mom raising a neurodiverse family. I support and empower autistic women with life strategies throughout all areas of life so that they can go from surviving to thriving in a world and society that was not fully set up to support them. So let's get back to this concept of time blindness. And time blindness is basically just what it sounds like. We have an inability to be able to see time. Instead, it's a very internalized thing. We feel time, but we don't see time. So time does not pass for us like it does for neurotypical individuals. And again, a lot of this has to do with executive functioning deficits. Several of the things that do evolve from this time blindness, it looks like procrastination, missing the deadlines, doing things in the wrong order, or not knowing how much time it's going to take to do any given task. Sometimes it also means that we arrive late for things. We might arrive too early for things. But there are things that you can do to help with time blindness. One of the main things is to have some sort of routine and structure in place. And I know for some of us with ADHD, having routine and structure just feels so constrictive, but I can promise you that putting a little bit of routine and a little bit of structure in place is going to make a world of difference for you, even if it's just the same 4 things that you do every morning and you get yourself off on that start. So having structure, having a system, and having routines makes a huge difference. Another thing that you can do is start using a visual timer. For me, one of the big things that have worked was getting an analog watch, so I didn't have to look at a digital clock because that wasn't helping me at all with the actual time passing. But having an analog watch where I could see, oh, okay, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then also using an analog clock. I have dual screens. I have 2 monitors on my desk that I use for work. And when I need to go into a working block, I will use my second monitor to put in an analog clock so I can see this is how much time is passing. So those are 2 big things that will help. And then the other big thing that has helped me with my time blindness is using a combination of time blocking and brain dumps. I had to ditch to-do lists. I had to ditch traditional planners. I had to ditch bullet journaling. All of these time management strategies that have worked for neurotypical brains, and then going off of the assumption that they're also then going to work for autistic or ADHD brains. And we know that's just not the case because our brains are not, it's just not set up like a neurotypical brain is. And autism and ADHD are both neurological disorders. So that's why when I started looking more into strategies and looking into things, I had to look at the ways, basically I had to break these systems and break these strategies in order to develop strategies that were going to work for me. So I use this combination of brain dumps and time blocking instead of using things like a traditional to-do list or a traditional planner or a traditional bullet journal. And what I do is at the beginning of every week, I look at the things that are coming up, whether it's in my work life, my personal life, or my family life. At the beginning of each day, and if I have things that I know are coming up on the week, I put those into my calendar first. And here's the thing too, I always schedule myself first. If I can't prioritize myself and put myself first, then the rest of my system, the rest of my carefully planned routine and structure just goes out the window. Because as moms, we have so much that we're already taking care of. It's not just ourselves, it's our families, it's our household, it's all of these things. Then you add on other things, like you might be a volunteer at your child's school. You might be actively involved in your faith organization. You may be actively involved in your community. You might be working outside of the home. So we have all of these things that we're trying to acclimate and then adjust into our schedule that we're just keeping tabs on for ourselves. Then you start adding in all the other things that come in from the household, from the family. And really, it's no wonder that we start to get so overwhelmed with having to do all of these things. So that's why I look at this at the beginning of the week and I say, okay, I've got these things that are coming up this week for me. Let me go schedule those in. I've got these things that are coming up for my family. I'm going to go schedule those in. So I schedule those things in at the beginning of the week, knowing that they are coming, and I put them in my Google Calendar, and I also write them down in a physical planner, because that's just the thing too. For me, writing something down is going to reinforce it in my brain, but putting it on my Google Calendar will sync it to my phone, to my desktop. I get notifications on my desktop. I get notifications on my phone, and it's a beautiful thing. From there, every day, I do the same kind of process. Like I look at what's coming up for that day, and then I put into the time blocks that I have created for that day. My time blocks for my weekdays are different from my time blocks for my weekends, because I don't want to be working on the weekend. And that's not the point. But if you like to work on the weekends, by all means, put your time blocks in on the weekend. So I set up my time blocks from the times that I know I'm going to be active. And that's just it too. You want to base your working time blocks, whether you're using those time blocks for work, for home stuff, for whatever it is that you may be doing. And you base it on the hours that you are awake and that you are active. You don't base these on things that, okay, at 9 o'clock I go to bed, so then I'm going to put in a time block for 10 o'clock. That just makes no sense. So you base it on your active hours during the day. And your time blocking also builds in for your transitions between activities. What I then do with my time blocks is I use my analog clock, and I use a variation on the Pomodoro time method, which is 25 minutes of focused work, 5 minutes off. This was something that I brought in when my youngest daughter was still at home. And I very quickly learned that a good children's show had 25 minutes of time for her, which meant 25 minutes of uninterrupted time for me. And carrying that over in those time blocks, in those 25-minute focused blocks, were, and here's the biggest thing for this to work, you have to be able to minimize or eliminate all distractions. With young kids around, that's not always possible, and I totally get that. So you make your time blocks work in a way with the time that you have available. So whether that's a 10-minute, 15, 25, 30, however long it may be, and then you schedule your activities into those time blocks. That is the basic overview of the system that I have used and developed and that I tweak, because sometimes it does not work, or sometimes someone's schedule is going to change. So it's adaptable and it works for me. Guarantee that it's going to work for another autistic ADHD or mom? Of course I can't, because our lives and our situations are all different. But what I can say is that if this is something, give it a shot, give it a try. If it's something that we would like help with implementing, I would invite you to schedule a complimentary discovery call, and we will talk about what your daily routine looks like, what your schedule looks like, and what you would like it to look like. And you'll walk away with your very own custom plan. So I'm going to leave that link in the show notes of this episode. And just to give this quick recap, we're talking about time blindness and how to overcome it. Time blindness is just that. It is the physical inability to see time. We can sense time, but we cannot see how much time is actually passing. This then manifests itself in several ways, including procrastination, not knowing what order to do something in, and being late or being too early, and not knowing how much time a task is going to take. one of the biggest ways that I've been able to adapt and overcome all of this is by utilizing a time system that involves brain dumps, time blocking, and yeah, brain dumps and time blocking, and using my schedule and my system and my routines. And the other biggest piece of that is to schedule yourself first, because as moms, we are not just managing our own life and our own schedule and our own tasks, but we are managing the household, we are managing the family. And if our own schedules and routines aren't there, then we know that the rest of the household, everything else, it may just fall to the wayside. So that is what I have for you today on time blindness and how to overcome it. And I will talk to you soon. I hope you have an amazing day.